Today I'm going to be learning about the Canadian military and in particular the Canadian Special Forces. This one says every unit explained, so hopefully it's a bit more in depth and I can get a good understanding of the different entities of that area. And yeah, obviously I watched videos on the Canadian military before. I know it's like one of the most respected, well trained. I've looked at individual soldiers like Leo Major, who kind of epitomises the Canadian military, full of ingenuity, bravery, and just a great soldier. So looking forward to seeing this one. Tell me if you've ever been in the Canadian military, in any unit, any department, Special Forces. Tell me your experience and how it was. Maybe you even got family that were in it. So let's watch this anyway, we can learn about the units.
Canadian Special Operations Forces. When you think of Canada, the first thing that comes to mind might not be its military, but underneath the maple syrup, hockey, and cold weather lies an elite force with untold capabilities. Canada's Special Operations Forces, although not widely known or talked about, are premier warfighters highly trained and ready at the helm to execute the various missions their country requires of them. Possessing many of the capabilities you'd expect of a special operations entity, Canada supersedes these with the Canadian Special Operations Forces Command. As you'll come to find out later in this video, Canada even has their own Tier 1 unit. Join us as we take a dive into the various units of the Canadian Special Operations Forces Command. You might know what every Special Operations Force of the United States military is, but do you know what Canada has to bring to the table in the world of Special Operations? You'll come to find out that they are well-trained, highly effective, and utilized in the full spectrum of combat. The first unit we're going to cover is the highly renowned Joint Task Force 2. Joint Task Force 2 is Canada's elite Tier 1 unit. As with most other Tier 1 units, JTF-2 is primarily tasked with performing counter-terrorism operations, both domestically and around the world. JTF-2's members are trained to a high standard in order for them to operate effectively in stressful environments. JTF-2 specializes in direct action, hostage rescue, special reconnaissance, foreign internal defense, protective security, and other high-value tasks. They are known for their great professionalism and discretion during operations, and work alongside other elite units such as Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, and the SAS. JTF-2 was created in 1993 to take over hostage rescue and counter-terrorism responsibilities from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police CERT teams. After 9/11, it was committed to international matters, and saw its first major combat role outside of Canada. To date, as you'd expect with any Tier 1 unit, most information about JTF-2 is classified, and the Government of Canada does not comment on its affairs. The next unit we're going to discuss is the Canadian Special Operations Regiment.
Yeah, so it said that they work with other groups like the SAS. That's obviously a unit I know a bit more about, being from the UK. I know their strength and their reputation worldwide. Like, where does Canada's equivalent, like this unit, where do they sort of rank, like in the worldwide terms? How much respect do they have? Do you know of any like interesting operations that they've been on? Even like working together with like other groups like the SAS?
CSOR is a relatively young force in the world of special operations, being stood up in 2006. CSOR is along the lines of a special infantry unit, with its concept similar to the US Army Ranger Regiment. It provides Canada with a versatile and multi-mission force that's capable of delivering tactical and strategic level effects. CSOR's core skills are special warfare, special reconnaissance, and direct action. It can conduct complex and difficult raids, work with armed forces of other countries, capture strategic facilities, and can adapt to dynamic security environments. CSOR delivers a robust, flexible, and high-readiness expeditionary force that is able to deploy abroad on an as-needed basis. Just like any other SOF force, CSOR also has its support personnel. CSOR support personnel play an integral role in its operational effectiveness, and are capable of working under harsh conditions with minimal direct supervision. CSOR supporters consistently produce high-quality results. CSOR pulls from Canada's Army, Navy, and Air Force. Once a year for about 10 days, CSOR recruits from these services. There's two types of candidates, those that want to be operators and those that want to be supporters. Each have their own standards. Candidates who want to join CSOR will put themselves through several arduous months of physical and mental exercises, focusing on combat skills and survival methods. Those who make the cut receive the regiment's tan beret and are assigned based on their category to either of the three direct action companies, Special Forces Company, or Support Company. With CSOR covered, the next unit we're going to go over is the Canadian Joint Incident Response Unit.
Okay, yeah, just with regards to that, he kind of briefly mentioned like the entry to that unit and also the training, but if anybody has more detail on like the entry requirements or the entry process to get into one of these units, and also the training, I think like military training is one of the most interesting thing. It varies, I think, quite a lot between different countries, but when you really see how intense and how long some of them last and the things that they need to go through, I find it very fascinating, honestly. But yeah, if you know that with regards to these units, please tell me more.
The Canadian Joint Incident Response Unit provides a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense response for special operations missions. Essentially, the Canadian Joint Incident Response Unit is the 911 for Canada when it comes to CBRN. But keep in mind, it is not solely a first responder element. The unit's main focus is detecting, identifying, and mitigating CBRN risks, and then later deals with decontamination efforts if they are required. The unit responds with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the Public Health Agency of Canada during its CBRN operations. The three troops this unit is broken down into are the Sampling and Identification Troop, Surveillance Troop, and the Decontamination Troop. This unit also deploys internationally. These deployments are typically short and occur with little to no warning. Other forces in Canada's military utilize their specialized response capability abroad if needed. Their op tempo and speed is very fast, and it is much more demanding than most of Canada's military specialties. Members of this highly capable unit devote a large part of their time to training and education. Like in CSOR, members in this unit are either operators or supporters. The selection process to get into this unit is also rigorous, and candidates undergo difficult training with many voluntarily withdrawing. On a final note, select members of this unit are also qualified to conduct operations with Joint Task Force 2. The next unit in CANSOFCOM is the 427 Special Operations Aviation Squadron.
With that previous one, do you think that's the hardest one to get into? It does seem like very specialist, and I mean, that one probably seems like the most interesting, the things they deal with as well. Like, I'd love to hear any stories of people that have been in that unit.
To put it simply, the 427 SOAS is to Canada what the 160th SOAR is to the United States. 427 SOAS provides dedicated Special Operations aviation assets to Canada's Special Operations, while also providing assets to conventional forces as needed. Unlike the 160th SOAR, however, there is no formal selection process like you'd expect. To get into this unit, personnel wind up getting assigned this billet like any other assignment. The lack of a selection process does not speak for its capabilities or recognition, however. It still plays a vital role in supporting counterterrorism, special reconnaissance, and much more. The aircraft of 427 SOAS can be armed with onboard aerial snipers, provide limited direct fire support from crew-served mounted machine guns, and are able to provide means of insertion and extraction by fast rope, rappelling, and low hover techniques in rural, urban, and maritime environments. One of the aircraft they use is the CH-146 Griffin helicopter. While this unit has a decent amount of history to it, it was only transformed into a special operations entity in 2006. So like CSOR, this unit is also technically newer in the world of special operations. And now for an honorable mention in this video, the Naval Tactical Operations Group. Although NTOG is not a member of CANSOFCOM, we felt it was necessary to mention them in this video due to their intense missions and capabilities. The Naval Tactical Operations Group is a full-time, dedicated unit within the Royal Canadian Navy that specializes in advanced boarding operations at sea. Part of these operations include maritime interdiction, which is the interception of suspect vessels in order to prevent the movement of illicit cargo and material at sea. Their secondary duties are force protection, such as protecting Navy ships, infrastructure, and personnel. NTOG teams are deployed to various ships, augmenting the ship's company for a mission or period of time. They provide additional security and planning capabilities to these ships as well. Each member is trained in hand-to-hand combat, interrogation techniques, precision shooting, advanced medical skills, mission planning, and IED identification. NTOG was created in 2014, so this is another newly minted entity of the Canadian Armed Forces. This unit is available to any personnel serving in the Royal Canadian Navy or its reserves. Alright, with our honorable mention covered, let's move.
I wonder if that unit has been involved in those like recent issues in the Middle East with shipping and things like that, and the Houthis. I don't know, maybe Canada was part of those operations on the more western side of things.
On to our last, but not least, unit of CANSOFCOM, the Canadian Special Operations Training Center. As you can probably surmise from the name, this unit develops and provides training to CANSOFCOM personnel to support its operational requirements. It's essentially the educational and training element to Canadian Special Operations. The training it provides is common to all CANSOFCOM units, and runs professional development courses that push members out of their comfort zone. They provide the means to enable their operators to have the physical and mental capability to excel in the various missions they're being asked to perform. It also provides annual training to all CANSOFCOM personnel in areas such as ethics, rules of engagement, and human rights. And with the last unit covered,
That's cool.
What if you're still interested in learning more about other foreign units? Chances are you're watching this in the United States, and if you're from Canada, great to have you. We've covered Britain's Special Air Service and France's GIGN. The links to these two videos are in the description below. And if you want to learn more about Joint Task Force 2, the book No Ordinary Men, Special Operations Forces Missions in Afghanistan by Colonel Bern Horn reveals 6 untold special operations that CANSOF personnel undertook in their desperate struggle in the shadows to capture or neutralize Taliban leaders in Afghanistan. The link to the book is in the description below. Well, that is the down and dirty of Canada's Special Operations Forces.
That's really cool, yeah. So yeah, really nice to get a better understanding of those different units. And yeah, I mean, very elite. You can tell the training, the specialization of each unit is like probably like it must be one of the best special forces in the world. Again, one of the reasons for making this video is also just to get people's like comments and feedback and stories and experience if you've ever been associated or been part of any of these forces or been like associated through family or anything like that. Just yeah, I find it very interesting. I think the Canadian military is one of the most underrated, and I think it's deserving of like being more well known and like people having more of an insight into it. So that was my reason for making this video. So yeah, tell me what you think about this one. Thanks.